And what's going up, guys? It's your hostess with the most, is Anomalycyra, coming back at it with another mind theory for your mind. Let's get into it. The theater of life. You, me, all of us, were a part of this magnificent and yet amazing show of abilities. Some would call it a simulation, others would call it a matrix, some would call it, humanity or society. I like to preference Alan Watts, who thought it was something more with a mixture of Hindu beliefs and Judeo-Christian, where there's a performance of our abilities to be ourselves. So if you have to be yourself, right? And it's even in our own wording. And it would seem like these are things that you may have thought about on your own, or have crossed your mind, or you'll say them and be like, that's a particular strange way to put that, but I guess it's just a language, or that's just kind of how it goes. And this could be, across the realms, where in French you have more words for emotion, or in German there are expressions that simply mean one specific thought you could have had or another. Well, in English, we describe things in a simplistic way, but it can still have its beautiful attributes, I would say. That being said, I feel more like we have personas, which are the actor in the film, in other words. So each one of us is our own main character. I love this thing where it's like, be your own main character, or this kind of talk, where I guess in a way you're somewhat forced. I think there's this other angle of things of where, I see in theater and movies, since we're speaking about the theater of life and being the great actor of your best performance, which is yourself. So I would say that when we watch movies and we see them, like, I don't know who we would even call a great actor anymore, but we have a lot of somewhat talented film stars going. So I'll keep reaching back probably to like the more of the aging stars now. Your Leonardo DiCaprio's, or, even though he only has one Oscar, but I feel like the range of talent is what we're trying to state in. So in this way, we all have our moments where we were the Romeo, right? Or we were the Jack Dawson, where we were professing our love and willing to die for it, to where we were the Catch Me If You Can, where we were in and out of relationships and running around. Really, you could preference your whole life off of just the movies he did. But really, if you're a fan of anyone, couldn't you do that? So the thing is, though, when you find yourself feeling like you're an outcast, or you're not exactly fulfilling the role that you need to fulfill, or you're doing exactly, or like for me, I feel the opposite. Like most of the topics that are really popular, like talk about, I usually feel the absolute opposite about. But I understand that because I'm a genius, and you wouldn't really be here unless you could understand thoughts at many different levels of existing. But a lot of the things talk to the masses, so they keep it simple, they dumb it down. Very much so, like any of my time travel movies I would really like. Well, as soon as I would see that they came over to America, they would like edit things out, they changed the language, it was like crazy. There's this movie called Teleport, and I guess it was too difficult for people to understand about the time travel. He created a time travel box, and so he got in the box originally, you don't even find this out until the middle of the movie, but originally at 8 o'clock in the morning. But we find him getting in the box at 9 o'clock. So there are two hymns created. The hymn at 8 a.m. that comes out of the box at 9 a.m. to do all the stuff he had to do, and then gets back at the box at 9 a.m. Told his friend, they tell the other them, and then they go to like a hotel room or something, and then the copies of them from that day carry out these behaviors, win the lottery, play the stock market, all this kind of thing. And then it gets out of hand, and one of the friends starts creating his own timeline, and really these end up looking like just different thems, and then they're having a taped conversation on a patio. And now that I'm sitting here listening to it, I'm like, okay, for your average person, and it's a slow read, the book was, and then the movie is a slow pile up, so that kind of makes sense. But here's what I wanted to get to. Every day you wake up is a different you. It's you, but it's a different variation of you. The you before, if it wasn't saved in some time travel box, is dead. And we bring the memories of that self to this new self when we go to sleep and we wake up. Now, no one really wants to talk about that, and it's kind of creepy if you think about it that way, but most things are creepy if you think about them that way, right? I mean, what is existence? Two people came together, decided to make a person, and that person is now you and me. And I'm sitting here doing a podcast, and you're sitting here listening to one. And we're just kind of gonna go on like that's not a big deal. Even though it really is, that out of this whole galaxy, and this whole world, and this whole universe, and this whole ice bubble outside of the asteroid belt that I'm floating by, there's a you and there's a me. And I'm so appreciative for you, because I'm an introvert and I do love floating through the galaxies on my own. But it's always nice to know there's someone out there listening sometime. And I'm still looking for different civilizations, but so far it's been really quiet. Not a lot of action out here in deep space. But the sights are beautiful. I've seen some of the most amazing gas clouds, and one person told me that they had heard that one of the gas clouds smelled like raspberries and tasted like rum. And I thought that was the most fascinating idea. Not that you could go out there and take your helmet off, or that you would want to. But what a delightful idea that everything that we know that exists in completely different forms than we could imagine. Like the raspberry flavor she would be talking about wouldn't be something that would fit into the palm of your hand, or that would even have been grown from the ground. It's something very, very small, a molecule, a couple of atoms, with a specific name, and that's the flavor of raspberry. So it's not raspberry, and it just feels too much. It just feels like, there are these little programs inside of us that ask questions like, oh, going too far, asking too many questions, like the Truman Show. Don't press the exit bar. But sometimes I ask you, like this is what we do here, I ask you to peel back the veil. Look inside the opinions that you have. Look past the point of views that you hold. Think about the beliefs that you want your future to be in balance with, and why. And really ask yourself why, and really think about a true answer. Don't rush into this. This is some very deep and complex things, but this is what we do here, and I would like to form a world of deep thinkers internationally, and it's always been a goal of mine to help the world think at a deeper process. And I think for its own bliss, for its own well-being, for the well-being of all mankind, if I would be so presumptuous to even say that I could have any kind of effect on mankind at all. But to even feel that it's a possibility that I could, I think is the best thing about humans, is how optimistic we can be. And it's quite delightfully charming when I have been able to experience it. But in this way, I've found that quite rare upon myself, being the most optimistic person I know. And I don't know if you could say that. Possibly you know other optimistic people, but usually it seems that I'm a rare commodity in that arena. Not by choice, but it just seems to be something that happened that way. But I've had a different reality, and perceptions form behaviors, and behaviors form your habits, and then your habits form your character, Your character forms your personality, and in a way, you think your personality is who you are, even though it's not. Which, when I was under the veil, is something that was very hard for me to understand as well. Because everyone can't be a genius. Some people listening have never thought of their life in any other way but how it exists now. Or me even saying that doesn't make any sense. But for those of you that it does make sense to, for those of you who are here that do see that not that listening to me changes you, or that you are changing yourself, that there's something inside of you growing and bending and forming you, and almost an uncontrollable urge, like a hunger. And for me, I'm simply here to fulfill that hunger with the knowledge of these different interactions that I myself have been able to cultivate in a way of culture capital, if you will. And I willingly and freely share it. The only thing you would give is your time. And in that way, I keep this one a little bit short. And I want you to remember that everything you're doing has a purpose. And everything you think about is not you. Some of the things you think about don't even come from you. I would like you to understand that you exist inside of a society that has a great wealth of knowledge that is inside all of our psyche. And not being able to exactly explain it or being able to explain it wouldn't help you change it or move it in any kind of way. Very much so like breathing. There are doctors who could explain to you exactly what's happening when you take a breath, what muscles move, what blood vessels constrict, what mucus is held inside of your lungs. There are even people that couldn't go as far as I just explained. But I'm a medical school dropout, so that's me. But they could go into even further detail if they were a specialist. But at the end of the night, when they take a deep breath, it's the same as yours. So what I would like to offer is that I may have a wealth of knowledge and information. I only wish to share it. It's up to you to do something with it. And with that, I've been Anomalycyra, and I'll see you again soon. Have a great month.